Welcome everybody to Home Ice with David Quinn. I'm Michelle Davis alongside Steve Valiquette and Rangers head coach David Quinn. And coming up today on the show, the NHL is officially in phase 2. So we'll break down just what that means for the Rangers. And also on the anniversary of the 1994 Rangers Stanley Cup team, we'll be joined by Mike Richter later on in the show. And as always, Coach Quinn will answer your questions on Twitter. So let's get things started. And Coach, as I mentioned, we're officially in phase 2, but players are still scattered all over the world. This is maybe not a problem, but something that a lot of teams are dealing with. What would you say is the timeline and or at least the expectation to have everyone back in skating together for your team?
Well, obviously, we've probably been in a little bit different situation than most teams because we were in the epicenter of this, terrible disease. 1, 2, we're the youngest team in the league and not many guys are married. So guys don't stay here year round. So a lot of these guys go places, for example, the Islanders, they're an older team and a lot of guys, make their homes year round in Long Island. So when this started up again, they had 10, 12 players, already living around the area. We don't have that. That being said, there's a huge level of excitement. I'm shocked how excited I was about the fact that we can have 6 guys on the ice without any coaches to skate around. But it is a sign that we're getting back to where we eventually want to get to. But, we also want to be timely in this. There are a lot of guys in different parts of the world that have been training, have been skating in an environment that's fine for them right now. So, we want to be optimistic and we want to be excited, but we also want to be realistic about when to get everybody back here at the right time.
Quinny, you had a very difficult start to the season in terms of 3 games on a 16-day stretch. And we spoke about that last week, and you said, look, it wasn't easy for us as coaches. The players were sick of practice, but now you're looking at a 3-week training camp period where you're going to play against one another. But do you think maybe there's some crossover where you look at another sport that would experience a schedule like that that's unique to you as an NHL coach? Maybe your favorite team, the Patriots, you could give Bill Belichick a text or something and find out what the protocol could be?
My favorite teams now in football are the Jets and the Giants, so it's a tie. So, but without question, you can learn from people that are going to be in this situation from different sports because this is unique in the situation we're going to be in. As I've said before, we've got to find that balance of, working our guys, being prepared. My idea right now is to scrimmage a lot. I just think the more we get guys going in game situations under these circumstances, the more prepared we're going to be for those games that get started for the playoffs. And, but there will definitely be some reaching out to other sports to figure out, how to manage these situations because it is going to be unique.
You focus a lot on the importance of winning those one-on-one battles, being hard on the puck. Those are things you really preach. And rightly so, they're things that can separate one team from another. So do you feel like those are things that players just know to do instinctively, or is there a way that you work as a team or as a coach to kind of get your players better in those one-on-one battles and being so hard on the puck?
Yeah, I think that you can certainly create situations in practice, maybe not just flat out one-on-ones, but there are drills you can do where there are multiple players involved where you create one-on-one situations. And, I do like the cross-ice games because I think with those games, you just create, just through the game, a lot of one-on-one battles. And, it's quick thinking in small areas. It's beating people to the middle of the rink. One of the things that we've been doing, obviously, we've been doing a lot of coaching stuff over the last month. And the thing that a good friend of mine, Mike Hastings, who coaches Minnesota State, I love this term, there's good ice and bad ice. The good ice is the ice in the middle of the rink, and the bad ice tends to be the ice on the perimeter. And, we want to own the middle of the rink. We want to own that good ice, and we want to beat people off walls. And, that's a big piece of A, defending, and B, being creative and good offensively. So, when you do play those cross-ice games, you're creating a lot of those scenarios where it's not just, okay, throw a puck into a corner, here's a one-on-one battle. It's pretty much it can be a little bit of a disguise from a coaching standpoint where you're creating these scenarios where you're creating one-on-one battles, but it just isn't about that. It's also about playing hockey within, creating those battles.
Quinny, before the puck drops on a D-zone faceoff, I remember looking up and seeing Jed Ortmeyer or Blair Betts and loving that feeling as a goalie because they're honest players. And we've talked a lot about your stars, but Jesper Fast, he's one of your honest guys that you can lean on as an example in the video room, in the locker room when you're addressing the team. How important is he going to be for this playoff?
Very important. I mean, he's very important for us in so many ways, not only what he does on the ice, but the way he goes about his business off the ice. He's a great example for our young players. But boy, one of the things, he's a good player. I mean, he's a good player. He's a guy you can put with Panarin and Strome, and, he can be very, very beneficial to that line in so many ways. And he may not have all the flash that some of the high scoring players do in our league, but he's a guy that makes that line go in so many ways. He allows those guys a little bit of freedom offensively that they may not be able to have, maybe playing with somebody else. He's been able to contribute offensively, and we're just lucky to have him.
As we do each week, we go through those defining moments in the season, and we've got to talk about that incredible franchise record 9-game winning road streak. It was spanning over 6 weeks, and the previous record was 7 games. We know how brutal the road can be, and just from a mental and physical standpoint, how are you able to sustain so much success during an extended period of time like that?
Well, like I said, I think it was a byproduct of what we were going on through earlier in the season. And once we started having some success and finding combinations and chemistry within the lines, within the D-core, you could just feel the whole attitude in the locker room change. And, we weren't intimidated by being on the road. Our guys embraced the challenges of being on the road. We understood what was at stake. And it just, we didn't really differentiate, our mindset from being on the road. And, I just know as a coaching staff, when we were going through that stretch, there was literally a level of confidence that we had. And I use the word swagger a lot. We had it. We acquired it through hard work and through our trials and tribulations of what we went through earlier in the season. And, there was a level of confidence, not arrogance. And there's a fine line between those two words that allowed us to have the success we had. And we never doubted that we were out of a game. I think we had proven that throughout the early part of the season, that if we were down, we had the ability to score goals. So, one of the things we talk about is we have the ability to score, and scoring is hard. So we can do things a lot of teams can't do. We just got to continue being good at the things everybody can do.
And Quinny, your team, they had a chip on their shoulder all year, as if they played as underdogs at times. And you set that mindset for them early. You could see it. Knowing now that the playoff format that the NHL released, they'll all be technically road games for you guys. Are you going to use that approach, that underdog approach, and just the message to the guys, why not us? Why not us? And then have that approach right when training camp begins so they can get their mindset on the challenge ahead?
Yeah, that certainly has been the conversation we have had with all our players. Why not us? And I think there are 23 other teams that probably feel the same way, especially with the unique situation we're in with these playoffs. And, that being said, why not us from our end of it? I think there's a lot of validity to it because of what we did from January 1st on. I mean, this isn't just, words that we're throwing out there where it would be crazy if we had some extended success in the playoffs. We feel like we were, trending in that direction. We felt like we were going to make the playoffs, and we felt like whoever we faced, or once we got in the playoffs, it was going to be, we had a chance to win. And, you can't win if you don't think you can win. And our guys believe in themselves, and they believe in each other.
Yeah, the mental component is a huge part of it as well. So great stuff. Thanks, Coach. Coming up, as we mentioned, on the anniversary of the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup, we'll be joined by legendary goaltender Mike Richter. That's coming up next when Home Ice with David Quinn returns. Welcome back to Home Ice with David Quinn. I'm Michelle Gingras. And as the Rangers season evolved, they became one of the most dangerous offensive teams in the NHL. But in order to take the next step and become a more complete team, they needed to improve their play in the defensive end. For more, Coach Quinn takes us inside the Rangers film room, orchestrated by Lenovo and CDW, people who get it.
People always talk about how much improvement we've made and why we had such a better second half. And I always point to our D-zone coverage. And you're going to see some clips here why we were able to have the success we had after January compared to what was going on before January. And first clip here, you see, Winnipeg dumps it in. Stalzy does a good job getting to his man. But one of the things we really worked on was our net front coverage and stopping around the net. And you can see right here, Connor does a great job taking the puck around the net, but we've got people in place. And we do a real good job protecting the net front. Puck gets kicked out high. And we do a really good job sorting this out. We want our center to come out high. Once teams get 3 guys high, we do a good job with it. Mika gets out high. We do a really good job around the net front stall. Lindgren do a real good job clearing that puck, and we're out of our zone. Off a face-off, Winnipeg wins it. DiGiuseppe does a great job getting in the shooting lane. Okay. We do a real good job protecting the middle again. We come back into the zone, and this is what we look. We want to have this box and one look, 5 on a dice, we call it. You see our defenseman Lindgren defending the puck. Fox is at the net front, and there's our center. You can see the box and one look. That's kind of what we want to look structurally in our own end. I'd like to see Lindgren get to that man a little bit quicker. Fox does a real good job defending. We try to get out. They do a good job keeping the puck in. But again, we stop on the puck. Hedo gets below it. They try to establish some more offensive zone play. Fox does a good job supporting the play, and we get the puck out. So again, really good structure in the defensive zone. We're up 5-1 against the Islanders here. We're a little bit too passive for my liking, but their forward comes in, establishes the high ice. Our defenseman isn't going to chase him. We've got good net front coverage. We give up a shot that we shouldn't give up, though. But again, if you look at this setup here, there's our box and one, right? We want to have our 2 defensemen, our center, and our wingers looking just like that. Sometimes you get a tendency to be a little bit too passive in the defensive zone. But I do like the fact that we're battling at that net front. And again, if our D zone coverage is good, we're going to have a much better chance to have success against a very dangerous team offensively. Carolina wins a draw. Kreider gets out. They're not able to make a purposeful play. Again, you see our coverage protecting the net front first. We're in the battle. Mika's quick to stall. They try to use their points again. We get out. Great coverage at the net front by Mika. Tony stops because Mika was covering him. Great net front. We got stall on stall battle. They try to kick it out high again, which they do quite a bit. But a thing I love here is our winger gets out high, and he doesn't allow the Carolina defenseman to make a purposeful play. He has to blindly whip that puck down low. Puck stays on the boards. Here comes Zibanejad. Down low again. And this is just great breakout. This is just a great breakout off a great defense, and we don't spend any time on our end. So, again, some of the things we're going to have to do to have success against Carolina.
Back now with Steve Valiquette and David Quinn. And goalies obviously love defensive zone structure in front of them. It helps them out a little bit. And so now we welcome in one of the greatest Rangers goalies of all time and 1994 Stanley Cup champion, Mike Richter. First of all, Mike, happy anniversary, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's always a good day. Happens once a year, and no better way to spend it than with you guys.
Okay, great. Coach, you were teammates with Mike on the 1986 World Junior team. Brian Leach also on that team as well. So you guys go way back. So we're going to give you the opportunity to get us rolling here.
Ricky, the one question I've always wanted to ask you, why'd you choose Wisconsin over Boston University? That's the first thing that jumps out at me when I'm trying to figure out your career and what I always wanted to ask you. Because we would have won a national title, not that we didn't have great goalies then, but we would have won a national title with you in that.
I couldn't get in academically. You know
That's
that.
A great answer. Hey, I got in academically. There's no way you wouldn't have got in academically.
It is funny though, because Ben Smith, if you remember, was a coach that we all had on various national teams and junior national teams, including 1986. And he was a great guy, and it's a reason that I really wanted to do that. And you're a little bit of an orphan coming out of Philadelphia, right? Boston has the Boston guys. The Midwest has Minnesota at the time. Michigan was just coming up, but Philly, you were going to go somewhere. You weren't going to go to your hometown, right? And I had, believe me, great designs on playing in Boston. Everybody I knew from there was fun. It's absolutely great hockey. Of course, we all watched 1980, and so many of those players came from BU in particular. So, that the other Big Red was on my radar, no question.
Well, it's funny. When I was at BU, during the recruiting wars, we'd beat up against Notre Dame and Michigan and Minnesota and things like that. And anytime I would ask a kid, what other schools are you considering? When they would say those other schools, I thought we'd had a fair shot at it. Anytime a kid mentioned Wisconsin, I'd go, oh boy, we got a hard battle here, because I'll tell you, they have it all. I mean, you're talking about one of the great college campuses of all times, great tradition out there, and just a spectacular place. But would have been nice to have you as a teammate in college, I'll tell you that.
Well, we had a blast in 86, and I got to tell you, I watched, I think, the interview you and Brian Leach did, and just hearing some of his responses on his interaction with you brought back a lot of memories. And for those who don't know, Dave was the man back then, and literally, there wasn't a lot of first-round picks from our era, and it was just like everybody, the room would quiet down. That's Dave Quinn walking in here. And, I benefited a lot from your service in front of me. Let me tell you, in that '86 World Juniors, that was a blast.
Well, that was a great team. I don't even think we realized the impact that it had. And back then, there's no internet, there's no social media, so you're playing in the World Juniors, and it's a big tournament. But I don't think we realized the magnitude of it, and the fact that we won the first medal in World Junior history for USA Hockey. It was a pretty special group and a heck of a team, and obviously you were a big part of that. So a lot of fun times.
Yeah, and you watch the alums from those teams go on, the Eric Weinriches and whatnot, guys that you didn't hear about a lot, but they had great NHL careers, and there was a reason for that.
Mike, obviously, as we mentioned, it's the anniversary of the '94 Rangers Stanley Cup team. And when you become champions, it's said that you walk together forever. Coach, you've actually expressed similar feelings to the national championship team that you were a huge part of. So, Mike, I'm curious, can you describe the bond that you still have to this day with your team?
The New York Rangers are the Stanley Cup champions, and this one will last a lifetime.
I think Herb Brooks said it really well. If you win, you'll walk together for life, and it's just such an accurate description. Anytime a team of 20 goes through the ups and downs that happen during a season, and particularly the grinds and the challenges, even if you don't win, you've shared this experience, but it really solidifies it when you come out on top. We happen to have a very tight team from the beginning. In some ways, we were lucky because personalities gelled in a very meaningful way. In other ways, Neil Smith and the scouting staff and Keenan put together groups of guys. Well, we need more toughness here. We need somebody who's sandpaper in the locker room. We need somebody that keeps the glue together. And we could have gotten rid of guys, but we knew what they brought into the locker room. And honestly, you talk about a sanitized, a clean cockpit for pilots. Our locker room was a clean environment. There was not negativity there. There was not jealousy. There was not, hey, tap myself in the back. I won that game. We won that game. We lost that game. We'll do better tomorrow. It was an amazing team going through the year in that regard, and it was sacred in the locker room. You don't screw around with that feeling of responsibility and respect for your guy on your right and the guy on your left. And I think that comes with experience, but Kevin Lowe, Mark Messier, Jeff Buchman, Adam Graves, Brian Leach, these guys, they had this as a young guy. They learned more of it through experience, and they brought it to bear that year when we really needed it in those game sevens. So I'm just saying the foundation was there as a close-knit team coming into the season, going through the season, solidified by the ups and downs that you have. Some of it was self-inflicted. Keenan would push you. Some of it was just, that's what competition does. And then it was really kind of seared into us through the seventh game of New Jersey and through the 7 games and winning the cup. So no question, you do walk with those guys for life. They're like brothers and sisters to me. That's family.
Mike, first of all, very happy to be able to spend that time with you guys during the alumni weekend this year and play goalie for you guys. I know you guys needed a goalie because you wanted to play forward, but you checked pretty hard. Mike, you know what? Something else, though. I researched this morning. I saw that your rookie year, just reminded me, was 89-90. And I went through every team, all 21 of them at the time. 70% of the goalies in 89-90 were under 6 feet tall. Huh. Only 6% of all goalies this year in the NHL were under 6 feet tall. What would you maybe cause and effect? What would you really realize or even share with us that you think is the reason why?
Wow, that's an amazing stat. I just think the position of goaltending has gotten so much better and so much more competitive that if you're a scout and you're looking at 10 goaltenders and all 10 of them have roughly the same competitiveness and ability to focus and physical gifts, I'm going with the taller one, right? Because in the end, that guy's probably going to be a little bit better. Now, goalies come in all shapes and sizes, and very difficult to look at somebody like Hank or Shesterkin or Georgie and know what's between your ears until you actually learn who they are as people. And that's, I think, the differentiator, size, aside. But with all being equal, we're in a more competitive environment. Quinny, you see this all the time. How many of those guys in that 86 team that we're with, we had some big, strong guys, but we had a lot of small guys, forward, defensemen, everything.
Yeah.
The competitiveness of the pool of players that you're picking, if it's BU scouting, you're not just scouting Boston, you're not just scouting North America, you're scouting the world. And so you're going to be pulling guys like Chara out. And so there's only so many seats in the NHL, roughly 700 some. You have a lot more guys knocking at the door. And the goaltending position, it's never been better in my eyes. I think in the history of the game, there are so many good players right now. So yeah, you're going to tend to get the physical specimens that you can with all the mental attributes that you want. And on top of that, and you know this well because you're one of the best coaches out there, they're coached so well. So their technique is spectacular. So, I mean, technique between the ears and physically, and then the physical prowess that they bring. I mean, a guy like Ben Bishop fills the net. So if he's having an off game, there's still not a lot of net you're seeing. And so I think it's simply the competitiveness of the position.
Well, the mental makeup is so important in every position, but no bigger than the goaltending position, obviously, because you're on an island in so many ways. And, you know, for the guys that do have the physical ability, so much of it can be made up with the mental ability and the mental toughness. And that's what made you such a world-class goalie. And it's what has made Hank a world-class goalie. And, you know, you look at all our goalies right now, all three of them aren't very big compared to the modern day goalie, but all three of them have that mental edge. They have the mental toughness that have allowed them to have success. And obviously Hank has had, you know, Hall of Fame world-class success. And, you know, just like you did, but what, you know, you guys were physically gifted, maybe not tall, but athletic and physically gifted, but the mental piece of it made you guys special.
Yeah, and I think the training too, right, is so key. You're getting guys that have the coordination of a smaller player, right? If you watch Mike Vernon, he was a great Manny Legacy back in you know, years ago. These were very good goaltenders. Darren Pang, unbelievable glove, tiny little guy, but he'd find a way to get the puck. But now you have guys that are training so well that are as coordinated as the smaller goalies were years ago, but they fill the net. And so it's a pretty strong combination. I got to say that it also speaks to how good the goal scorers are, to be rattling off, you know, goals like Ovechkin or Panarin does against these goaltenders and against these systems. Very difficult to find the twine now. It really is. And so it's pretty impressive these guys can do it.
Mike, great insight. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to catch up with you on such a memorable day in Rangers history. When we come back, we're headed to Twitter when Home Ice with David Quinn returns. Welcome back to Home Ice with David Quinn, Michelle Gingras alongside Steve Valiquette and Rangers head coach David Quinn. And like we do each week, it's time to head to Twitter and get your questions answered. So let's kick things off with jhickey_34, who asks, is there a dark horse guy that you think could make a big impact in this series under these current circumstances?
A dark horse guy. I think when I think of dark horse, I think of Buchnevich quite a bit because I know what type of player he is capable of being. I think there's another level for Bucci to get to. He had a really good second half. I really think he's growing up a lot as a player and a person, but I think he's a guy that could really make a big difference throughout these playoffs.
And Quinny, my question is from @BigZB. I'm assuming that's Big Zibanejad. Nathan McKinnon said Breadman deserves to win the Hart. What do you think?
I think I agree with McKinnon. I've said this all along. You know, you look at the impact he's had on our team, not only on the ice, but off the ice. You know, his offensive numbers speak for themselves, but I think the thing that goes overlooked is his plus 35. And, you know, he stepped into a situation when there was so much uncertainty and people wondering who his center was going to be. And he found that chemistry with Strome. And then obviously when we put Fast on the line, it really rounded out that line. But, you know, from day one, he's been our best player, or one of our, obviously our best player so far. And, you know, Mika's season certainly hasn't gone unnoticed, but, you know, he's a guy that just has done it all for us in so many ways. And when you talk about a guy who's third in the league in scoring, who's plus 35, it's hard to argue that he doesn't deserve the MVP.
All right, that'll do it for this week. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching and submitting your questions. We'll see you right back here next week when Home Ice with David Quinn returns.